takes a certain kind of lyrical genius to make fraudsters come across as sympathetic, and that's what Adaobi Tricia Nwaubani has achieved with I Do Not Come to You by Chance. This book was released in 2009. It's been a long time, I know, but its focus, the main subject matter, is still relevant today and probably the next 10, 20, 30 years to come. You get the gist. The story follows Kingsley, who's our narrator, a young brilliant man who has graduated from the university with a degree in chemical engineering. Kingsley is that North Star, that bright star that the family hopes will take all of them out of poverty. After applying to multiple jobs in prestigious oil companies, but nothing seems to be working, Kingsley is forced to start to consider other options. He has this longtime girlfriend, Ola, who he's smitten with, head over heels in love with. They've been together since his days at the university, with the hopes that by the time she's graduating, he would have made enough money to come marry her. But that is not happening, and so there's also that tension building by the side. Kingsley is heartbroken and shattered. You know that kind of thing where you are the first son. Very relatable story, I mean. You're the first son and the family is looking at you as the light, but that light is refusing to shine. And then one thing leads to another, and fate leads Kingsley to the footstep or the doorsteps of his alto cash daddy. He used to live with them sometime when they were younger. You know, this is also relatable when your parents are sort of well-to-do, or even not well-to-do, I mean, but families come to live under your roof, and cash daddy happened to have done that. But when we had that flashback, we were showing that cash daddy was a bad influence on Kingsley. Cash daddy was a notorious, or is a notorious guy, you know. I started with small scams when we were younger, but now that he is a big lead in Aba, he's a well-known fraudster. Kingsley's dad wants nothing to do with him and doesn't want his son within an inch of where Cash Daddy is. But like I said, fate strikes. Kingsley's dad is ill, and Cash Daddy becomes the only support to raise money to treat the man. And one thing leads to another. Cash Daddy remembers how brilliant Kingsley used to be, and without a job, Kingsley's at a very vulnerable place where Cash Daddy's words sort of cheers. That's why Kingsley's initial response is no. He felt insulted, you know, that Cash Daddy would even offer to turn him into a fraudster. But fate strikes again. One thing leads to another. Ola breaks Kingsley's heart into more pieces where she tells you she's getting married to another person who is uneducated but wealthy. And Kingsley's dad dies. And it's all of these things just sort of steam together, become the boiling point that causes Kingsley to actually consider Cash Daddy's offer and start a life of crime, cybercrime in particular. And Kingsley is actually good at it. He's a brilliant guy and so has an edge over some of the people who are rough around the edges. And also because Cash Daddy loves him as a brother. You know, he calls him his brother, even though they're technically nephew and uncle. Calls his brother a lot of time. Cash Daddy is your stereotypical Nigerian man who has made money through some kind of means. You know what I mean? And he's loud. He's boisterous. He's condescending when he wants to be. You know, but the author does something about him that gives him some silver lining of redemption. He's all of these things that you would expect stereotypically, but he's also a kind man. He's also an honest thief, which is an exact word that Kingsley used to describe him at some point in the novel. And so he's not all bad. He has his redeeming qualities, and he genuinely likes Kingsley, like I mentioned already. And so Kingsley has to get off his high horse across the years that he spent together to make the most of this world of crime. I kind of does give him some good advice that turns out better for him. Among his better days that happens during the course of Kingsley's criminal enterprise is that his mom is heartbroken and doesn't exactly want to do anything with his money, you know, and it remains a current theme or thread throughout the story. And it's nice to see that some Nigerian parents, even though it's a fictional, actually are pushing back to their kids living a life of crime. I wish more people in real life would be like Kingsley's mom. So what do I like about this book? I like that it is relatable. The story is relatable. It's as relevant as it was in 2009, as relevant as it was in the 1990s, where it is set, as it is today. This is something that has played Nigeria over and over again, and it continues to do so. And it's nice to see a book like this that spotlights this and is like pushing back and saying, not in its own little way, that say no to crime. Now, what I don't like about it is still picking up from thread of what I liked, in a sense, that the way it ended didn't exactly say crime is bad. So I'm going to get into spoilers. This book is almost 20 years old, so I'm going to get into big spoilers here. So the way the story ends is that Cash Daddy dies. But he didn't die as a result of his life of crime and scamming. He died because he got too ambitious and wanted to become the governor of Abia State. Very relatable. And it's this political connection that got him killed, not his life of crime. Kingsley, who is Cash Daddy's mentee, also doesn't pick crime. He actually even got smart at the end to camouflage by setting up authentic businesses that got his mom to think he has left crime and got his mom to come around and be proud of her son, whereas he's still scamming until the very end. So you get it. And so while this is fiction and, fiction, real life is stranger than fiction in the sense that I'm sure not anybody who does crime or cybercrime actually gets caught. I would have loved if the book sort of had a very definitive ending that sort of said, if you do crime, you suffer for it. But the author, like I've come to learn, wasn't about that life. She was more about painting the reality on ground as at the time she wrote the book. Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians that she knew of, or some Nigerians that she knew of, were scammers. They were making money out of it and they were getting away with it. And her main thread was sort of to show the correlation between poverty and how much of a disease it is, and sort of how it can turn someone who is good, quote unquote, bad. And whether that's enough for you reading it, I think it differs from person to person. For me, like I said already, I would have loved a bit more definitive. And the only character in the book who got an ending that was commensurate to the life of crime that they lived so far was Azuka, one of Cash Daddy's workers. He went to Iran to scam a movie person and then he never returned. But the rest of them, the main characters in particular, got away with it. And like I said, it's sad that is a reality. It's a Bikori reality. And so I understand the author's POV, but I'm just projecting here. I said I wish that they moved the book that same way. That the book would have served in some form like a definitive moral instruction, at least to deter persons who might be sitting on the fence and want to go into this kind of life, that there's no rule there. But for what it is, I think I Do Not Come to You by Chance. It's a pretty good book. A lot of people refer to it as one of the definitive books about Yahoo in Nigeria. And now that I've read it, I agree. It really, really paints that picture. It doesn't sugarcoat anything. The author doesn't care to paint Nigeria in a nice light or that is false. She just presented the case for what it is, and I'm sure she did a lot of research, because I saw somewhere in her appreciation where she was appreciating people who actually do crime for giving her the front row seats to their lives and how it was. So it has that realism to a large extent, and I liked it. This book had been adapted into a movie directed by Ishayo Bako and produced by Genevieve Nnaji in 2023. It went to the TIFF Festival, I think, but it's not been commercially released yet, 3 years down the line, and I wonder why. And now that I've read the book, I'm very much eager to want to see the film and see what justice they do to this story. So I'll let you know what you think about I Do Not Come to You by Chance if you've read it and haven't heard what I've said about it. If you want to read it or not, I would like to read from you in the comments. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one.